This is the project that I've been working on for about the past week, and what I've basically done is taking an ordinary CPC 6128 and I've added a Gotek interface to it, as well as a 3D printed bezel for the interface. So I'm just using the guts, as you'll see a bit later on in the video. We have a 3D printed knob as well, so that's a resin printed knob, which is why it's all nice and smooth. And then here we have a 3D printed bezel that holds the OLED screen, the activity LED, and obviously the USB socket. On the back we have an HDMI port, and we also have this button here because sometimes the SCART to HDMI converter selects the wrong input. So pressing this button actually resets it back to the RGB input instead of the HDMI input. Just moving on the back now, it's all pretty standard, all pretty stock. We've removed the 12 volt DC wire from there. What I'm going to do is 3D design just like a blanking plug for it and put that on there. That'll just make it a little bit neater. And the rest of it is basically completely stock. It started off life as a normal 6128, and I've just made a few additions to it. So the first thing I did was I replaced the AMS-DOS ROM with a copy of Parados. This was the old ROM there. It's still in good nick. I could reuse that if I wanted to, but to be honest, you know, if you've got Parados, why would you use AMS-DOS, you know? So we have an RGB to HDMI adapter here. So you've got to be careful with these because a lot of the SCART to HDMI converters don't actually convert the RGB, they just convert the composite. And for us that's no good. We have red, green, blue. I know that's yellow, but I didn't have any green wire at the time. And then we got a sync there. Again, and then we've got a wire here which just enables the RGB portion of the SCART interface. We're taking the power from as close to the power socket as possible because we kind of want it as strong and as clean as possible. And the ground, we're just taking off the ground of the main PCB. I've removed pretty much everything that was on this board. So there was an HDMI connector here. There was obviously a SCART connector here. There was a power connector there. There was an audio connector there. An SPDIF for digital audio out, and then 3 buttons. But it just kind of sits on default and it just works. And I've basically kind of heat staked it down. So I've actually pumped hot glue through the holes in the board onto the bottom, and that'll hold it down pretty well. And that's exactly the same as the interface here that I've bolted down. This output here, this HDMI, goes to a little extension lead that goes out the back of the computer. And we have a Gotek USB to floppy interface here that we've stripped out of its outer shell. And again, desoldered, you know, pretty much everything that was on there originally. So there was a USB interface there. There are a couple of LEDs here as well. And all we've done is really taken them out to this panel here. So we've got a 3D printed, a resin printed knob, which came from Thingiverse. And this bezel here is actually the first thing I've ever designed to be 3D printed, and it works really, really well. It literally just kind of slots into the housing of the 6128, and it looks really, really nice. So I'm very pleased with the way that that turned out. There's quite a lot of glue involved with this to get the USB. The actual USB port came from an old phone charger, so I kind of cut it out and I glued it in with some UV setting glue, and then I put some epoxy resin on afterwards and just let that set. And this is again held in with UV glue, a bit of number plate tape. It's a bit of a cheat, but you know, it works. And then we've got the standard sort of rotary encoder there. There's not really much more to say about it, to be honest. It's not a particularly difficult mod. The most difficult bit is actually getting these parts here to stay. I mean, that's easy enough, and the LED, a bit of super glue holds that in, but getting these screens in is a bit of a pain in the arse. And also just getting getting this USB to hold took a bit of doing, but I just think it looks so nice. I really do. I mean, if I say so myself. But that's basically it. This is what I've been spending the last kind of week doing. But anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed that look at the modified CPC 6128. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe if you're not already. And I will be back soon with a video on the Rombo Redux.